All right, so welcome back to the next episode of the Quarter Century Soldier. We are in year 2020. All right, and everybody knows that that is the year of COVID. So if you want to go back to 2019, 2018, 2017, please go check out those episodes to get caught up because we're in the year 2020. So like I said, in 2019, we're killing it, right? My section has the Soldier of the Year. We're competing at the next level for Soldier of the Year for like all of PACOM. And PACOM is Alaska, is Hawaii, is Japan. So we have soldiers that come in, and compete for that. We didn't win there, but we were the only section that was able to send two people like to back-to-back competitions. Like that's unheard of, right? To be able to have people that are that good as soldiers and physically and mentally to send to the competition in back-to-back years. And so like we were on cloud nine, man. We were pretty much untouchable in the hospital. Like I said, whenever you work in the lab in the Army, you're a lab tech. It's one of the smartest MOSs that they have. And once you're physical, that's the hard part, right? Usually nerds are not physically fit. They're not physical people. So once you get someone who's really smart and, is a nerd, for lack of a better term, and they are gym rats, they're physically fit and, they like to work out, that's like the perfect blend. And so that's, we had a crop of those when I worked in Hawaii. So we were just the best. So the lab as a whole is pretty good. And then within the lab, we have competitions within the different departments. And nobody was fucking with us. Like micro was top dog and we just couldn't be stopped. So roll into 2020. I am, we're still just, doing our thing. We're starting to hear the stories about COVID, and it started over like in Europe. And, you started to see in different countries how it was traveling because people were pretty much lying about not having it or not having any symptoms. And that's how things spread, man. People lying, talking about, I'm not sick, I wasn't exposed, and then they end up infecting other people. So we could see it, making its way across the country, across the world, not even just across the country. And one of the good things about Hawaii is that it's an island. So it's not just like you can travel by driving to the next state. People actually have to fly in and you have to be received for that. So, everything shuts down in March just on the whim. And the Army was just, they were just not ready to shut down. And this is when I start to realize like they really don't give a shit about you, your family, your health. They care about their numbers. The Army is a numbers game, training. You want, 95% people trained. Just like, in the civilian world, they want you to have a license. You want 100% of your staff to be licensed, and you want to pass safety inspections with an A. The Army's no different. We have all these training stats, and that's all they're concerned about. So what does COVID do? COVID is going to put a damper in that because you have to stop training. This is something that I've never experienced before. So obviously, most of the leaders that were there have never experienced that. The way that the world just kind of closed down, like we're not doing this anymore. The Army did that, but commanders were just not ready for it. So they still tried to keep, I remember it being March because I was supposed to take a PT test the next day. So I'm getting ready for that, hydrating, sleeping, getting ready to go to sleep. And it just like, they shut down all activities, minimal manning, X, Y, Z. And it was chaotic, not in the sense of, people screaming and running everywhere, but it was chaotic in the form of nobody really knew what to do. So they did immediately stop group activities. You could not do any more group activities. But because we have so many people that are in the Army that want to be different, they want to set themselves apart from everyone else. We had people still, oh, we're still doing PT in the morning at 6:30. If you guys want to come out and still, we'll just do proper distancing. Like, bro, people are dying from this shit, and y'all are just acting like it's no big deal. Like, oh, I'm going to continue to train anyway. And that's where things started for me. It started to change, because now this is an opportunity for all leadership to show, hey, love you all to death, but we need to separate. And we need to separate until we figure out what's going to happen. We all have cell phones. We have email if it comes to that. So we can still communicate. This isn't the days of the Pony Express. We don't have to send letters. I don't have to see you, right? So we can all still communicate. But the fact that they didn't do that and they still wanted to continue business as usual was upsetting, because, we saw, y'all remember the news and how it was just like, y'all remember New York when they were just saying how they were running out of space for bodies, and people were being found in the back of trailers, and nurses, doctors were just burnt the fuck out because there was just so much happening, and people they just couldn't keep up. And so we have an opportunity where we're on an island, and this is where leadership is supposed to make that call to protect people. And they were still like, no, business as usual. Motherfuckers, business as usual. I'm not getting sick behind none of y'all over here just because y'all want to do a couple push-ups and sit-ups in the morning. Fuck all that. Like, that shit is real. So that's when you still had conspiracy theorists coming out talking about it wasn't real, it was made up, because Trump was president then, so he didn't believe this shit was real. I remember talking to friends, they didn't think it was real. It was just a really insane time. So what happens is, like I said, I remember this one dude, he still wanted to hold a PT session. So of course, again, you get people that just want to look cool. Oh, I'm still training even though there's a fucking pandemic happening and people are dying. And it's not actively, I don't think we did have our first case in Hawaii already. So we had our first case, people didn't care. So I remember this one dude who still wanted to do it, and people were still going. And they did it for like 2 days. And what happened? Motherfuckers caught COVID. Now, I don't wish ill will on nobody, but it's one of those things when you hear, you're just like, what did you expect to happen? You thought that you guys were going to be immune from it? You're literally working out, breathing harder, sweating, all of this other stuff. And so we know it was passed by aerosol and just like touching surfaces. Like, what are you doing when you're working out? And then, if anything, because you're winded and you're sore, your body's in repair from working out, you're probably just a little bit more vulnerable, right? That's why we get all these germs and shit from the gym. So they officially had to shut that shit all the way down when that happened, because people got COVID from that specific activity. It wasn't like, people in the hospital started getting it, so now they're going to shut down the PT. No. The group of people who were out there, they started testing positive. So it was like dummies, you know what I'm saying? Like, go sit y'all ass down for a little bit. Like, it's not going to kill y'all. You know what's going to kill y'all? Fucking getting COVID, because we don't know how to react to this thing yet. And we're lab. So I'm working in micro, which is underneath microbiology. We have virology and we have bacteriology. So virology was jumping. It's a virus. It's something that we have to test nasal. And for the first time, like, the lab was where people actually cared. Nobody cares about the lab. Nobody wants to come to the lab because the microbiology section smells like bacteria. It stinks and all that type of stuff. Nobody usually cares. But during COVID 2020, we as a section had the hospital in a chokehold, because now everybody wants to be able to report the numbers as soon as they happen. So we're testing for it, and we don't even have a test for it. I'm gonna keep it 100. We don't have a test for it at this time. So we were doing other tests and getting information from the CDC and our Center for Infectious Diseases for how we're going to create the tests to give positive and negatives. We were we were we were doing and it took, where now they have the rapids, right, where you can swab your nose. Before, we had to basically culture the virus, so it was taking like 48 to 72 hours to get a positive. Y'all remember before we went to the rapids, because people didn't trust the rapids, they wanted you to have an actual like titer, like how much. And so we were saying whether the virus was present or not, just from like growing it and multiplying it in like a dish from your specimen. It's kind of like pregnancy tests, right? You have the pregnancy test in the urine, but if you really want to know like how far along and how serious, well, not how serious, but you know, you want to confirm, and then how far along, you do the blood test, which is more accurate. So in the beginning, it's still the virology test is more accurate. Now we have the rapid tests that are, you know, up there as far as accuracy too. So we can trust those results. But before, no, we were figuring it out. Motherfuckers just wanted results. And we were like, bro, it takes like 48 to 72 hours. Like, these got to cook. And again, we did not we did not prepare for this. We didn't say, hey, this is going to be our COVID test. We were basically like piggybacking off of like the H1N1 type deal, right? Because it's still a virus, and we have tests for the rhinovirus and for COVID, but this was COVID-19. And so there was no test specifically for COVID-19. People were acting like the COVID virus was something that was new. No, it's not new, but this is a new strain of that. That's why it was specifically called COVID-19. So we had the hospital in a chokehold. If anybody knows, you're not supposed to give out results unless, like, you can't get my results. Some random Joe Schmo can't just walk up and say, hey, what's Felix's results for COVID? They can't do that. I don't give a fuck if you're the commander of the hospital. You're not the doctor. You're not the patient. What they wanted us to do is they wanted us to violate what we call HIPAA. They wanted us to violate that and just start giving people's results out. Hell no. Like, no, we're not doing that. We get it, right? We are not trying to stop progress. So we're not trying to be difficult, because then the thing becomes, when you're not doing what someone wants you to do, you're now a difficult person. You're not working with us. No, I'm not about to violate a rule just because. And so, like I said, we had young soldiers that worked in micro, first year, 2-year soldiers that came in. So what happens is you get admin, people who have never been to the lab before, coming down, and now they want results, because the government of not the government, but representatives for Hawaii, the mayor, the senator, the governor, and the military leadership, they want to know, like, what are the results for the COVID? Because Tripler Army Medical Center, we were doing all the testing for all of military. We weren't doing civilians, we were doing military. So they definitely wanted to report those numbers, and everybody wanted to be the first person, because it was a time where you could, this person was reporting these numbers this quickly, and they have this amount of tests. So they want to come down. They want Felix's results, but you are nowhere in the chain, right? You're not even a nurse on the wing. Even they have more opportunity or more of an ability to say, can I get these results, than some random, colonel. We don't give a fuck about your damn rank. It's HIPAA violations. Like, we're not about to do that. So what happens is they're trying to bully the young soldiers in our department. So me and the colonel we had a brief, because they had like a little the fuck was it called? They had like a little command center set up that was, specifically for reporting the numbers, and we had to brief them about numbers and the number of masks we had, the testing, and what we're doing to improve the testing, and just the number of positives. Right? I can tell you the number of positives. I can't tell you who was positive. So, people want to come down and go straight into the lab and be like, "Hey, what's Felix's results?" You can't do that. So we had to end up going and putting out that information. Like, do not come into our lab and push and try to bully our staff into violating HIPAA policy. Like, you cannot do that. They know that. And if they give you results, they're going to have to deal with us, right? You cannot punish them. And, they knew that. They can't punish them for not giving them the results. But what it is that, people try to flex, they try to use their rank, they try to use their position. We don't care about none of that. Like, we have been in existence for years before COVID, and this is how we have done things. Our policy is not going to change because COVID is here. We are trying to get out the results as quick as possible. But what we can't do is we can't do that, and we can't argue with doctors, random people in the admin, nurses too. We can't do that and still put out, good results. So which one do you want? Do you want to sit here and argue and be right because you're not going to be right? Or do you just want to chill the hell out and just let us put out the results? Just let us do that. So for the first time in my military career, people cared about the lab. People actually came to the lab to visit, because usually, and especially in micro, people don't want any parts of that because they're thinking as soon as you walk in the door, oh, there's bacteria everywhere, there's viruses, I'm gonna get sick just by being in here. No, you're not. It's probably one of the cleanest rooms outside of like the surgery suite, because we deal with that type of stuff back here. And oh, by the way, we're lab techs, so we're introverts anyway. We don't like a whole lot of hoopla. We don't like a whole lot of mixing around. So the fact that you don't want to come down here and visit us, we're not upset about that. Like, that's cool. Like, we're not bothered at all by that. So this is around this is like the April, May timeframe, when we were still trying to figure out what the tests were going to look like, what the distribution of results were going to look like, because we were operating on a day on, day off schedule just for manning purposes. We had to scale down on manning because of COVID, social distancing, and then it just, people who are working that shift are just working that much harder because our workload increased. And oh, by the way, we didn't stop getting regular stuff. So doctors were still seeing patients for regular exams, so we still had work to do on top of, now we got a new test. We got to get everyone in here trained on how to perform the test, how to result the test, and how not to give out the results when people come out and try to get those results. So we really had to reinforce that with our staff and just let them know, like, hey, you're doing the right thing. When this person comes, these people come and try to get results from you, they cannot do that. If it is the doctor, absolutely. The patient ain't gonna come and get a result and ask for results. So it's usually gonna be the doctor, somebody maybe from the wing or something like that. Okay, we have that discussion about who we're gonna release it to. But just every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes into the lab, absolutely not. So those were some of the internal struggles that we were having during COVID. But I loved it because parking at the hospital was minimal. I never was able to work from home, obviously, because I'm a lab tech. So we have to work in the lab. But there was a lot of people that got to kind of stay home and don't come into the office. We didn't have that, but it was so much of a skeleton crew at the hospital to where it was fine. It was cool. Just don't come next to me when you start coughing. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. But it wasn't a bother to go to work because now it was skeleton all the way around. Nobody was really there. But yeah, it was different. Like it was, it was just adjusting to that. It was something that the Army had never been through before, as far as I know. And once they kind of got it evened out and everybody understood what COVID was supposed to be looking like, and we finally, well, not we, they finally accepted social distancing. It was like, okay, this is how it looks, and everybody was fine. But for a minute there, it was really bad, just because they didn't want to stop training. They didn't want to stop doing what the Army does, and we had to, because people were getting sick. So that was the middle of the year. But during that year, before COVID hit, in February, I had actually turned in my packet to go to the DAS. So what happens was, once COVID hit, my packet had already been sent. It had to be sent before February, like someday in February. So I sent that off, and then COVID hit and everything shut down. So these, offices back in Washington, D.C., they shut down. I didn't hear anything for like 6 to 8 months. I had to call and say, hey, I turned in my packet for the DAS. What's the status? And he was like, oh, it might be in my packet of papers. We don't go into the office every day. Understand, like, the packet that I had to send in was basically all of my information, like everything. It was like why I wanted to join, the application, like my last 3 or 4 evaluations, awards, my clearance paperwork. It was just a lot of stuff for someone to say, hey, and you had to send it through the mail. So it was just a lot of stuff for someone to say, hey, it may be on my desk. It might be there. Okay. So that was something that I was getting ready to retire at the end of 2020. That was in my plans, because I just didn't want to do this anymore. I wanted to join the DAS, and like I told y'all in the previous videos, they made it so hard to turn in that packet. I finally got it turned in, but I didn't, because COVID shut everything down. I thought that was it. They weren't going to be accepting any new people. I hadn't heard anything. So I was making the plan, because I hit 20 in February of 2020. So I was making the plan at the end of the year, or once my time in Hawaii was up, which would have been in September 21, to go ahead and, put in my retirement packet, because there was no need to stay any longer. So that's what ended up happening with that. So at the end of the day, I got my response in August, September timeframe. So I called them up. He was like, hey, your packet's here somewhere. I just got to get into the office to take a look at it and to see if it's there. So I was like, okay. I mean, that's a lot of shit for you just not to be in receipt of. Okay. So then I'm sitting, I think I was playing a game or something, talking to one of the homies across Xbox or something like that one day. And I get a call, like, mind you, Hawaii was like 6 to 8 hours behind East Coast. So I get a call, and it's the recruiter for the DAS. He's like, hey, we approved you for the program. I'm like, what? For what program? What you talking about? He's like, to join the DAS. I was like, what? Like, I hadn't heard from you guys in like 8 months, man. Like, what? And when I talked to you last time, you hadn't even looked at my stuff. So now you're just saying I'm good to go? He was like, yeah, man, you're good to go. Like, we got a list of places that we want you to choose from in order to go. I was like, here we go. So I already knew I'm black, right? 6'1", 240, 235. I'm like, there's not a lot of people that want to go to Africa. So I'm like, okay, they're going to send me to Africa. I got it. Everybody wants to go to Asia. Everybody wants to go to Japan. In Europe, people want to go to places like Paris and stuff like that. So what happens with the DAS is you put your top places that you want to go, and then they offer you a place. You can say no. They will offer you something else. You can say, if you say no, you're out, right? So they'll offer you 2 places if it's not on your list of places to go. My places to go were Brazil, um, Colombia, and I think Costa Rica. They were all South American, Central American countries, Latin America. Those are the places I wanted to go. So when he sent me my list by email, and it was Ivory Coast, it was Gabon, and it was Nigeria. So I was like, see, I already knew that. I knew that y'all were going to send me to Africa. I'm not even hating. So I'm like, I was ready for that. So I was like, all right, cool, bet. I was like, let me get the Ivory Coast. All right. So I was like, yeah. So when I initially signed up, I was going to the Ivory Coast. Did my research on it and everything, right? Only because, and I chose Ivory Coast because when I did 23andMe, like that is where my ancestry comes from, is from the Ivory Coast. I was like 98% African, 1% American. And then my roots were like Ivory Coast, like 85% Ivory Coast and like some Ghana in there. So I was like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? I'll go back, you know, and check that out. Learn about that. So he was like, so a couple weeks went by. This was probably like August time frame. A couple weeks go by. He calls me back. He's like, hey, we had Ivory Coast for you, but the person that's there extended, right? So they want to send you somewhere where the person that you're replacing will be there like 2 weeks. Y'all do a little changeover, then they're out, and then, you know, you're in the spot. But that person had extended to stay longer. So he was like, yeah, so we can't send you to Ivory Coast. So I was like, all right, cool. So he was like, we still got Gabon for you. I was like, no. Nope. What we not gonna do, right? I accepted y'all's first offer and y'all messed up. So now it's a matter of where I want to go. So y'all got to send me where I want to go. So he was like, all right. He was like, so where do you want to go? And I was like, Brazil, 100%. Send me to Brazil. Little did I know, like the embassy is not in Rio de Janeiro, it's in Brasilia. But I didn't know that at the time. It didn't really matter to me. I just wanted to go to South America, Brazil. So he was like, man, we don't have Brazil open, but we got Honduras. And I was like, yep, sign me up for Honduras. And so that's how I ended up going to Honduras instead of, you know, Brazil or the Ivory Coast. So this was like in September, October, you know, so he starts to send me the paperwork and everything to go, to get ready to go. I reported to DC in March of 21. So I was gonna be PCSing, leaving Hawaii in March of 21. So what happens now is I have to let people at the hospital know. And they were unsure, which is weird because again, it's this power struggle. We weren't, so at the end of 20, we kind of went back to business as usual, I think around October, November timeframe. So from March to August, September was kind of everything kind of nixed. And then we kind of slowly went back to it once we started getting, they started believing in the rapid tests. And even us in the lab, we started to cut down that 72-hour time to get the COVID results down to like 24 hours because we got new, you know, procedures, new testing in. And then along came the rapid test too. There was a lot of places still not accepting the rapid test. Y'all remember when COVID first came out and it was like, you wanted to take a flight somewhere. It was like, hey, I got the rapid test. They were like, nah, we not doing that. Or you needed the rapid test to be resulted no more than 24 hours ago. And Hawaii was on something different with that COVID thing because they could restrict access, right? You had to fly in. Well, I don't think there were many boats coming in to Hawaii, but you had to fly in and basically you had to be received at the airport. So with every flight that came in, they could control it more because there wasn't like a whole bunch of airports where people can just land. There was kind of one central one in Oahu. Anyway, where Honolulu is. On Oahu, there was one. And so there was a lot of people that were turned around, that were stuck in the airport, that couldn't enter. Leaving was not that hard because I think the mainland, they eased up on restrictions before Hawaii did. Hawaii was still going in like 21, like into 21. When I left in March, they still had a lot of restrictions going on. And it wasn't just like anybody could come there. You had to have like certain criteria as far as to enter the state. They function like they're their own country, but to enter the state. I was actually happy to leave because it was like, hey man, like the world's opening back up, little by little, but y'all are still like March, April 2020 time frame where it was just no movement. If you get caught outside of your house after a certain amount of time, that was a problem. You know what I mean? Like, y'all remember that? It was a problem. So it was not that serious anymore. Like, we're learning more. We're getting, vaccines started and stuff like that. And so actually part of working in the hospital and developing that is we were sending the information to the CDC. We were sending the information up to, representatives for the state. So they were sending those results to Pfizer and Moderna, which helped develop the vaccine. So y'all are welcome for, my section in Hawaii, sending up our results and being in those briefings to help with the vaccine. Because I was one of the first people to get that at the end of 2020. So yeah, and then people were saying how you were gonna grow superpowers and heads and feet and all that type of stuff. Yeah, none of that. So sorry to disappoint y'all. It was all legit. We were there on the ground floor. When you see lab people and you're talking about lab coats and goggles and machines and breathing suits like Outbreak, yes, we were in that legit in 2020. And there's still lab techs that do that in research in Maryland. We have the Institute for Infectious Diseases, where when you're going to work with, anthrax and smallpox, you literally have to be in those suits with your own breathing apparatus. So that shit is legit and is real. But yeah, so at the end of 2020, I'm telling the hospital, like, hey, I'm out. Again, this program is not something a lot of people know about. So people think that, what? I've never heard of that. That don't sound right. That sounds weird. I don't care how it sounds to you. I'm leaving in March of 21, right? So when you are overseas, because that's considered an overseas assignment, and I wasn't scheduled to leave until September of 21. So I have to do what they call a curtailment. I have to cut my time short. What that does is that is going to leave your department, your section, the hospital, a person short because they're not tracking you leaving, right? They're not prepared for you to leave. Something happened. People can be curtailed for something like a family emergency, something to where you still have to leave to go back early, right? In their words, you have to go back early. I don't care how short you are. I'm leaving in March. And so, the leadership in the hospital I don't understand, but they weren't sure that I was going to get the curtailment approved. And see, that is the local command mind frame, thinking that you even had the power to stop that. What they don't understand is that what we call Big Army, Fort Knox, the people who really handle assignments, like I remember I told y'all about Branch, right? They called me and said, hey, you've been approved for this assignment. Like, you're going to curtail, right? They weren't asking me if I wanted to. They were just saying, like, you're going to curtail, right? Because we have to do this paperwork up in order for you to leave. You damn right I'm going to curtail. I'm out of here. I'm gone. Like, this is what I want to do. So if I don't do this, I'm dropping paperwork to retire. So yeah, I want to curtail. So I had already talked to Big Army about it. So the little hospital commander, like, bro, I don't care what you say or do. This is not coming from, you're not letting me do anything. Like, my branch released me. They said that I can go do bigger and better things. And then they're asking me just to confirm that I want to cut my time short. And I told them, not yeah, but hell yeah, cut my time short. I wanted to leave before March of 21. But, you know, I left in March of 21. So in the meantime, they moved me out of the lab, and they moved me to operations just because, you know, I was getting ready to, I think part of that was they were upset. Again, they had no control over that situation. When a soldier can apply for a program on their own without a commander's okay, they don't like that. And so that's why a lot of careers I feel get held back, because they don't want you. If they have, you know, 90% manning, and, you know, it may be rightfully so, but I don't really care, because you should let people do what they want to do, right? People are going to put effort into what they want to do. So if I want to go join the DAS and travel the world, I don't want to be here. So yeah, you're keeping me here and you're getting the numbers and stuff like that. But you have somebody who has a program that they want to join, something else that they want to do, and you're just limiting them because you just want to, just because you don't want to lose a person. Oh, but when the time comes for you to leave, you're going to be gone. Like, you're going to leave. You're going to take a new command position. You're going to try to move up. You're going to try to advance your career. And that is some of the things I don't like, is that they had too much control over, you need this person's signature to say yes or no. And those people weren't just like, hey, if that's what you want to do, sure, we're going to lose you one day anyway. How about we just, if we lose you to something that you want to do? Now, do I understand the fact about leaving the section short? Yeah, but it's not the way that it sounds. It's just the next person up, right? It's the next person up. Nothing's going to be lacking. You're not going to drop off in production. It's just the next person up. So there's going to be somebody that comes in to replace me eventually. Just like I've been gone from there for 5 years. I'm pretty sure there's someone out that replaced me, right? There's someone that's there now. And so if I hadn't gone to the DAS like I wanted to and just stayed there for sheer loyalty, or because you wanted me to, then I'm missing out on what I wanted to do. Hell no. The DAS is what I wanted to do. And had I known it existed before, because the Army is so shit at advertising its products, I would have been there. I would have been there before, because I actually love that job. And I probably would have stayed longer if I could have stayed in there. We'll get to that in a couple of years, because again, it's not like I was in Hawaii just bullshitting and looking at the sunsets and the beach. Like, no, we had the Soldier of the Year. We had another one compete. Like, I was running that stuff. I wasn't just taking up space. Like, my name rang out. I'm like The Wire. I was like Avon Barksdale over there. My name rang out. I'm just saying. I'm not perfect, but I will always reconfirm with y'all. I do a damn good job. You just have to take what comes with that, right? I have attitude. I'm going to fucking hold you accountable. I'm just me. I know my personality. But the work that I do is good. It's always been like that. People just attack my character. And so when you attack my character with who I am, it's not going to have the results you think it is. So I'm not going to calm down. I'm not going to chill. I'm actually going to get more pissed off like the Hulk, because now you're talking about some shit you don't know about. Like, you don't know that. Why don't you talk about the work that I'm doing? If my work was trash, then you could kind of, okay, you're not doing any good work. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why you look like that? Like, why you don't look put together? Like, why you look like trash? But I look good because I always iron my uniform. I like getting my hair cut. My work spoke for itself. So what's the problem? Because I didn't fall in line. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not there is where my following stops, right? It's to a point. But see, they want you to just shut up and color. What I say goes. Do this because I outrank you. And that's where we have a problem. And, that's where I continued to have a problem. And I had that problem up until the day that I retired. And just because. But yeah, 2020 was just seeing that they didn't care about people's, like, soldiers' families and their own health, right? The fact that you have evidence that this thing is spreading, and it was spreading like wildfire because, people were just dirty and nasty. Before everyone was washing their hands and before everyone was using hand sanitizer, people were just coughing openly and sneezing openly. And there was no, social distancing. People were just all on your back and coughing on the back of your neck and stuff like that. So yeah, it spread like wildfire. And then people got a little bit cleaner. Oh, let me wash my hands. Like, you weren't doing that before? You weren't doing that before? Like, I went to school for public health, and they always said that like, your hands are the biggest transmitter of diseases on the planet. People don't hear that shit. People heard it during COVID. Like, people were all over that type of stuff. So that was one of the good things that came from COVID. And people started social distancing, like, back the fuck up. Stand on the spot. Like, you're not on the spot. Remember that when it was just like in the stores, everybody had the arrows for like 6 inches, 6 feet? Was it 6 feet? It wasn't 6 inches. It was 6 feet. And it was just like, hey, man, you're not on the spot. You got to back the hell up. We need to get back to like where we were. I think we were at our cleanest during that time. Now, wearing the mask was that got old really quickly because I couldn't breathe in them shits. And it was extra humid in Hawaii. But as far as the practice of people being cleaner, like, yeah, that was welcomed, and hand sanitizers was going. People was buying bleach coming off the show. I don't know why people were buying the toilet paper and all that type of stuff, but the bleach, you couldn't find bleach from here to Timbuktu. You couldn't. Purell, their stock went up because everybody was just buying all of that. Yeah, so now it's kind of like, we're regressing. We're kind of back to where we were, getting used to the status quo again. People not abiding by the social distancing. They're just on the back of your neck. It's like, just because it's not like COVID rampant anymore, there's still good practices from that. Like, you can still stand back. You can get off me. You can still do that. Like, we don't have to be in a pandemic for that. But we're just regressing. So yeah, that was 2020 for me as a lab tech. It wasn't business as usual. It was business being ramped up, and just emotions were high. And people took an interest in the lab that have never taken interest in the lab before. What's the opposite of public enemy number one? We were everyone's best friend, I guess. We were everyone's best friend. Everyone just wanted to know more. Oh, you work in the lab? Like, you do that? Like, yeah, I do the testing and stuff and shit like that. That shit was difficult when it first came out. Like, how we would grow and multiply the virus. Like, that shit was really complicated. That's why it took 3 days to get, results. And people start wanting to get, preliminary results. And what do you think? And no, we're not doing that. We aren't doing that. I'm not giving you a person's results that you don't know just because you want to know, and because you think that you're in a leadership position, you deserve to get someone's results. No, man, that's a violation. We cannot do that, and we're not going to do that. So once we got everybody's emotions in check, it was okay. But it was just initially because nobody, these leaders don't know what the fuck to do, man. They're robots and stuff like that. They get information down passed from them, and they just want you to do training. And so this wasn't something there was no handbook for this, but it was common sense stuff. If they say chill out and keep your distance from people, just don't continue to go and work out in a group. I'm like, come on, man. Like that's common sense. And then you look dumb when all y'all start getting COVID from that group. Like you look dumb because you were trying to be cool. But I remember friends and stuff like that. That's when I became cool with some of my friends because they were, for COVID, for the civilians was different. I guess if you had a note, you could turn in a note and say that, hey, I might have COVID, or hey, I've been, I'm waiting on a test or something like that. And they would let you just not work. And I was jealous of that because we didn't have that. I have never had COVID, and I'm thankfully that I've never had it. That's not saying I wish I would have, but I've never had it. I don't know. I don't feel I did anything specific. I think my genes are just, I got good genes, bro. I'm impenetrable. I don't think that sounded right, but yeah, I've never had COVID or anything like that. So from 2020, I get assigned. I'll be heading to DC in March of 21. So that'll be 2021. Will just be me in DC, and that will be like me at the height of my streaming when I was in DC back in 21, 22. So we can get into that in tomorrow's episode, in our next episode, 23, talking about 2021. And that's when I go through my training to work at the embassy overseas. So thank y'all for watching episode 22. This is year 2020. This was the COVID year. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this episode, and I'll see y'all in the next one.